Welcome to CAF Warbird Tube. In this episode, we're taking a look at one of the most, unsung heroes of World War II. That is the Vultee BT-13 Valiant, known to thousands of young pilots as the vibrator for its distinctive shake in flight. The BT-13 really was the backbone of the U.S. Army Air Force's basic flight training program. It certainly wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't combat ready, but it did play a very crucial role in transforming aviation cadets into confident, capable pilots. And between 1939 and 1944, more than 11,000 of these airplanes were built. We're going to talk about one specific airplane tonight, and joining us to do that are two folks from the Razorback wing of the Commemorative Air Force, and that is Rob Lashbrook and Matt Anderson. And in case you're counting, this is episode number 230 of Warbird Tube. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the show. And if you're coming back, we're thrilled to have you as a returning Warbird Tube fan. If you would do us a favor, though, if you enjoy what you see tonight, please spread it across your favorite social media platforms so others can enjoy what we present. Now, Warbird Tube is made possible by the Commemorative Air Force. If you'd like to find out more about the CAF, our events, our aircraft local units like the Razorback Wing, or how you can be a part of the fun, just visit our website, commemorativeairforce.org. Now, as you're watching tonight, we've got two very smart gentlemen who know a lot about the BT-13, and if you have a question for them or see if you can stump them, just put that in the chat box. We'll try to answer your questions either during the presentation or save some time at the end before we sign off. So with that, Rob and Matt, welcome to the show. Great to have you here, and just kind of introduce yourselves. Rob, we'll start with you. Give us a little background on aviation in your life and how you became involved with the Razorback Wing.
Sure, yeah. Rob Lashbrook. I am the wing leader for the Razorback Wing. Career military aviator, U.S. Army, helicopters and fixed wing. Very fortunate to have been exposed to warbirds as a teenager and kind of flew them on and off throughout my career. So I've got a fair amount of tailwheel experience and round engine experience throughout my career, and kind of just, I love that kind of aviation. And I've been involved with the Razorback Wing since we reestablished the wing in 2017 here in North Little Rock.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Matt Anderson, and I started out, my family was already in aviation, serving in the military and in other aviation businesses after their service. And so I got involved in aviation as a young kid as well, and got into the military, served as an Army aviator as well, flying helicopters, Black Hawks, and Kiowas and Lakotas. And then also during the last 30 years, worked on restoring various aircraft under supervision of an IA. And I learned a lot about warbirds over the years, and then when the opportunity came in 2018 for the Razorback Wing to be stood up, I jumped in with both feet and got involved, and I'm currently serving as the education officer for the Razorback Wing.
Good. And I know you're going to be modest about this, but you do have some good restoration skills. You've got an L5 that is an award winner?
Yes, sir. Sure do. I restored, took 2 years and 3 months to restore an L5 Sentinel from 1942, and did a ground up restoration with it, and did first flight January 1st of 2023, and won awards with it at Sun and Fun and Oshkosh.
Congratulations. And it's good to have you as the project manager for this project of the BT-13. We'll get more into the details of this specific airplane in just a few moments, but let's talk a little bit about the history of the BT-13, and it also has kind of a connection to your area as well.
Yeah, so the BT-13, as most of the experienced listeners may know, the Army Air Corps had 3 phases of training: the primary phase, the basic phase, and then the advanced phase. The primary phase was usually the PT airplanes, primary trainers like the Stearman or the PT-22, which we also are lucky to have to fly here in Little Rock. And then the BT phase was the BT-13, and of course the advanced phase was most likely the AT-6 Texan or the Army C-45, which was an AC-45, the trainer that they used for multi-engine. So yeah, the BT-13 is kind of an unsung hero because it sat in that middle ground, and it was a ubiquitous trainer that virtually every military aviator during the period, flew at some point during their progression, but it's not as well known as the Stearman and not as well known as the T6. But it was essential for our Army Air Corps aviation during World War II, and we love the airplane.
Well, and you bring up a good point, because especially we'll just pick on the Stearman and the T6, both found work, as it were, after World War II, where the BT-13s and the counterpart of the 15s, a lot of them were sold very inexpensively at the end of the war, and a lot of the airplanes were scrapped, basically, and people bought the airplane, scrapped the fuselage, and kept the engines, which ended up in a lot of crop dusting aircraft all around the country. So we're looking at the 13 right here with its fixed gear, but it's the prototype looked a little different in the years before it became the basic trainer that we know today. So this is the Model 51, Matt, if I'm correct.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of this, because obviously this is a retractable gear aircraft, and how that sort of morphed its way into becoming the BT-13.
Okay, so starting in 1938, of course, Vultee company had been around since the early 30s, developing the V1, the V1A for American Airlines. But in 1938, Robert Palmer was their chief engineer, and he decided that they needed to build 4 aircraft. One would be a fighter, and then the other 3 would be trainers. And so the fighter aircraft was the Model 48C. And it was originally built, there was about 100 and some odd aircraft that were built. They were originally built for Sweden, but then they couldn't provide them to Sweden because of the Lend-Lease, and some of the rules had changed. And so they were supposed to go to Britain instead, and then the British ended up sending them to the nationalist Chinese to fight against the Japanese. So that was what happened with the Model 48C. And it became the P-66 Vanguard. The other 3 aircraft that were designed at the same time were the Model 51, which you see, I believe this is what it is in the picture. It was a retractable gear aircraft, had an R-1340 built by Pratt & Whitney, providing the 600 horsepower engine. And it was really in competition against the North American AT-6 Texan. Originally, the T-6 Texan was called the BC-1, and this was designated the BC-3. And of course, then we know the T-6 Texan won out in that competition for an advanced trainer. So the Model 51 just was not really pursued at that point. The Model 54 was another aircraft that they built. Really looks like the Model 51, but it had the retractable gear, but it only had an R985, and there was really no niche for it in the Army Air Corps. So they ended up only building one of those, and once they found no market for it, then it got converted to a 1340, and the company just used it as an airplane to fly around in personally. Then they had the Model 54A that was developed, and it was a fixed gear aircraft with an R985, and that is what kind of led to the BT-13. The Army Air Forces liked it for a basic trainer, and decided that they wanted a few modifications made to it. So they changed the thrust line of the aircraft a little bit. They changed the wings to the shape that you see now on the BT-13, and made a few other. Put on the 26-inch wheels that were standard for like the AT-6 Texan, and then they redesignated it the Model 63, and that became the BT-13. And then finally they decided, well, we don't need the wheel fairings on it. There was these covers that kind of covered the wheels to make it a little bit more aerodynamic. They decided to take those off. Few other minor changes, and so they called it a BT-13A after that, and that's really what went into mass production, was the BT-13A. And they built about 6,400 of the BT-13As, and then the Navy got a few of these aircraft as well, and they were called the SNV-1s. The next aircraft that was kind of developed was the Model 74A. They didn't have enough of the Pratt & Whitney R985 engines coming out of the factories fast enough, so they decided to build some with the Wright R975 engines, and so they called it the Model 79A for those aircraft, or 74A for those aircraft. And then the Army Air Forces wanted a 24-volt system, so they created the Model 79, which had a new electrical system to handle the 24-volt battery and systems, and Model 79 was designated the BT-13B, and the Navy designated the SNV-2. And so that was really kind of the different variants that they came out during World War II of the BT-13, B-15, BT-15 aircraft. And in all of those, there was about 11,000 aircraft that were built.
And one of the things that I find, kind of fascinating is, as Matt mentioned, between those two types, the BT-13 and BT-15, about 11,000 were built. The BT-13, a little more than 6,000 were built. There's less than 50 flying today. Yeah. So whereas you can see Stearman anywhere, you can see T6s anywhere, there's less than 50 BT-13s flying. So that's one of the things we're really lucky to be engaged in, is helping to restore one to flying condition.
Right. And to emphasize the importance of this airplane, where we talk about the primary trainers, we talk about the Stearmans, the PT-19s, the PT-22s. So primary training pilots had different experiences with different aircraft depending on what field they went to. And then when they went into advanced training, they flew like the AT-6, or they flew like the AT-9, or one of the other AT multi-engine aircraft. But all of those 300,000 pilots that trained in World War II all went through basic training, and they all went through flying a BT-13 and BT-15 aircraft.
Yeah, and speaking of training fields, and I alluded to this earlier, there's a field very close to where you're located that is one of the largest training facilities in the Southeast, and that was at Walnut Ridge. We were talking before the show, and Matt and Rob let me in on this information, and I was like, wow, I only knew Walnut Ridge as being the place where a lot of aircraft were scrapped after World War II, and that's where all of the pieces of CAF's Nose Art collection came from. But there's a history that goes way before that, and pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, that's one of the amazing things we learned here, living in Arkansas, is that a lot of people do know, the infamy of Walnut Ridge as the kind of the boneyard for, tens of thousands of World War II airplanes that were scrapped there and buried there and melted down there. But actually during World War II, it was the Walnut Ridge Army Air Forces Basic Flying School was located there. And it was the largest Army Air Corps flying school in the Southeast region. And at one time, it had over 250 aircraft, and most of those were BT-13s. It trained over 5,000 pilots right at Walnut Ridge, and it was the place to go for BT-13 training in the U.S. at the time. And it's still there now, although it's kind of a shadow of itself. But there's still a museum up there now where they honor the Army Air Corps cadets that trained up there and instructed up there.
Yeah, it's the Wings of Honor Museum. It's a good museum to check out.
As we mentioned, if you were an aviation cadet and you made it through primary training, you went to basic training, either the 13 or the 15, and also the BT-13 and the 15 had a different name besides the Valiant, and that was the Vibrator. And can you? There's different stories, but which ones have you heard as to how it got that name?
Well, of course, we haven't flown the aircraft ourselves yet, so
right.
we'll have to report back to you officially on what it is that creates the vibrations. But at various power settings, because this aircraft has. It does not have a prop governor on this aircraft when it was originally configured. So it's got a two-stage prop setting that you can set from the cockpit. You got a low pitch and a high pitch, and so that's all you've got. And so at various power settings, various speeds, then it would create this resonance that vibrates through the aircraft, and that's gave it its name as to be the Vultee vibrator.
I'm sure it's a term of affection.
So,
well, it depends on I've seen a number of different quotes, and some of them are not very complimentary. But the BT-13 and 15 were really, like we said, basic trainers, but they were not. It was not a very forgiving airplane as far as pilots who were kind of sloppy, and that really I think points out, even though it kind of has that comical name, but it really separated the good pilots from the not so good pilots in the flight training.
Yeah, I mean that's right. In the primary phase, the maximum horsepower that those students were dealing with would probably be a Stearman, 220 horsepower. Yeah. And if they were flying a PT-22, the Ryan aircraft, it's 160 horsepower. Well, this is the first airplane that really had some serious horsepower that you had to be aware of and compensate for at 450 horsepower. So that was a wake-up call for new cadets. In addition to that, you do have the controllable pitch prop. That's a little extra complexity. You've got electrical systems. And for the first time, this is when these cadets are learning formation flying and some of the tactical aspects of aviation. And combining that all together at the low hour level these young kids were is a daunting task.
Yeah. So some of the other training that they would do, like you say, in formation training, night flying, cross country flying, instrument flying, those are all the things that they would be learning at basic training, in addition to operating radios for the first time in an aircraft, operating flaps for the first time, working with a larger horsepower on the aircraft, like we mentioned. So there's a lot being thrown at these young guys that had just finished only about 65 hours of flying in the primary training phase. Yeah. And now they're going in, they're going to fly this aircraft for another 60, 70 hours before they move on.
And the BT has another connection to the Razorback wing as well.
Yes. So our first wing leader that we had when we formed in 2018, his name is Mike Tooley, and he had his father, Edmund Tooley, that you see there on the screen. He was a fighter pilot with the 25th Fighter Squadron, 51st Fighter Group, 14th Air Force in the China-Burma-India Theater, flying in India and China. And then after he finished his tour in the Pacific, he came back to the United States to train to be an instructor pilot, and he did his training there at Walnut Ridge in the BT-13s. So we do have a great family connection there, and we want to make sure we honor his service as well.
Well, let's get into literally the nuts and bolts of this project. Just so people know, this came to you as definitely a ground-up restoration, although there were some things that had already been taken care of, some of the bigger things like an overhauled engine. But describe how the wing managed to get this airplane assigned. Okay,
so this aircraft was donated by Robert Fravor, who had owned the aircraft prior to the Commemorative Air Force owning it, and the group he was with was getting a little too old, and they had started the restoration on this airplane, but just got too old to finish out the restoration, so they donated it to the National Headquarters Commemorative Air Force. And so the project had been sitting at National Headquarters for a little while, and when we decided to look at opportunities for us to kind of grow as a wing, they had put this aircraft up for assignment, and so we decided we wanted to go look at it. And so we went to National Headquarters about a year and a half ago and evaluated the project. We were delighted to find that it had been a flying aircraft, previously, and all the parts were seemingly there. No real damage to the aircraft, and the former owners prior to the Commemorative Air Force had already overhauled the engine, the instruments, the engine accessories, the props, and so a lot of the big ticket items were already done, and so it was really at a point that we felt that we could comfortably handle restoring this project. So we decided to pull the trigger on it, and we threw our name in a hat, and they accepted our offer, and so we were able to go pick it up and trailer it home, as you see in the photos there. So we brought it back to our hangar. We've got a 3,000 square foot hangar that we're operating in, and you'll see the parts there that are kind of stacked up in the corner. And there's the wing center section of the BT-13 on a little roll around mount. So we were able to bring that into the hangar. There's the tail section. You'll see about half of it has got rivets in it, and the other half has got clicos in it, waiting for us to finish the rivets on that section, because it had been reskinned by the previous owners.
One of the things I want to mention is kind of part of the why for this BT project is we were very fortunate in 2018 when we stood up our wing and we petitioned headquarters for an airplane, and they were able to assign us our PT-22, which we absolutely love. We have been blessed to be able to fly that airplane for the last 7 years. We are on the Part 91 FAA ride program with our PT-22, and we are having great success with it. But we quickly realized how limited that PT-22 is, and things that you can't do with it that you can only do with a more capable airplane. A good example is our PT-22 has no electrical system. Now, we do have a VHF radio and an intercom system, but that's just hooked up to a little rechargeable battery that we have to recharge on the ground. It's not very capable. So we have no transponder, we have no ADSB out, no navigation system, no lights on our PT-22. So that we're limited there. No starter on our PT-22. So every time we start that airplane, it's being hand propped, which those of you who know, every time we do it, it's a risk. And we have to take that very seriously when we do it. And then most significantly is there's a weight limit on our PT-22. If you weigh much more than about 200 pounds as a passenger, we have to start thinking about offloading fuel in order to not exceed our max gross weight in the PT-22. And it only holds 24 gallons to begin with. So that airplane, as good as it's been for us, and as much as we love it as a ride program airplane for what we've been able to do, we knew we were ready as a wing for something more capable, something we can travel with, something we're not limited so much with weight, and something that can fit in the airspace and be a safer airplane for everybody.
And that's
and we
really,
also recognize, of course, the Arkansas connection for the BT-13, and that would kind of help us with our community kind of outreach to kind of help connect with Arkansans and help tell the Arkansas story of aviation here at Walnut Ridge and the other airfields that operated during World War II. We also recognize that as a growing squadron, that we wanted to make sure that we kept member involvement. And we thought by taking on this project, we knew we had the personnel, the resources, and we wanted to get our members engaged. And so by bringing in this project, we felt it was a good way to connect and bring in our membership, to get them involved, to get them to be more personally connected to the organization, because once this aircraft is built, they can say, yeah, I worked on that.
We're all part of it.
We're all a part of this aircraft. And so it's helping us to grow as an organization. It's helping us to teach Arkansas history to the next generation. And it's a great aircraft to have.
Definitely. And you've alluded to a question that Parker Wooden had asked, and that was, what's the differences between the PT-22 and the BT-13? And I think we've highlighted those because, again, the 22, very relatively simple. Like you said, no electrical system. Both are low wing, both are fixed gear, but the BT has more power and can get up and gone a little quicker. And as you mentioned, especially for the rides program, a couple of safety elements. You're talking about the weight and especially the hand prop. And a little later on in the show, we've got if we have time, and I think we will, we have some footage of the PT-22, some great footage of the PT-22 on a ride flight. Back to the BT-13. So we're looking at the tail section as it was when it came from CAF headquarters in Dallas, and you've done quite a bit of work to a lot of the aircraft already.
Yes. So we, of course, got everything into our hangar, and we started work on really this wing center section because we wanted to go through it first. Already a lot of work had been done on this wing center section, but there were some repairs that still needed to be done. We went ahead and took off the landing gear mounts to the wing. We're glad we did, because we got into some compartments where we found some nests.
You'd be surprised how many dirt dauber nests you can find in the wing center section of a BT-13.
Right, so dirt dauber nest, animal nest, and so we were able to go through and clean out all the stuff that had kind of built up from its time in storage, and make sure that we go through and inspect everywhere, and make sure that the corrosion preventive measures are taken. And then once we got through with that, then we looked at the fuel tanks. Fortunately, they had done a great job of, these are wet wings, so it's the fuel tank is the wing. So we went through and did a pressure test on the wing center section fuel tanks, and found a couple leaks. So we went ahead and patched those up, and so we have good sealed tanks. And then we went and worked on building up the landing gear, and we've got the wing center section now painted yellow. This is just before we painted it yellow, and we've put the landing gear mains back on it, and so we're just about ready to put the main wheels on, and then we'll rotate it back up on its mains, and we'll slap the tubular fuselage on top of that here before the end of this year, and then it'll start looking a little bit more like an airplane to people that come and visit us. And once we get it done, then we'll start working on the tail section, get the rivets done on it, get it painted painted blue. And there's only 3 bolts that hold that tail section on. So we'll put those 3 bolts in, and then we'll be able to put it on its tail wheel and continue to install all the internal components that go inside the pilot and co-pilot compartments.
And what's really been a joy over this last year of this restoration is having people come out that may not be pilots, but they are mechanically inclined, or they have some interest in aviation maintenance, and they see these pieces and parts of this airplane, and we just say, come on out, get involved, get your hands dirty. Even if you're just cleaning off a piece of a hydraulic actuator, come on out. And we've had young people get involved, Civil Air Patrol, Boy Scouts, and other people that are just mechanically inclined to coming on out and helping put this together. It's really been a benefit for our wing just for that kind of engagement.
And speaking of parts and pieces, we got some great photography here of some of the different aspects and things that you don't normally see. Up close this attachment
bracket.
And when you're looking at the airplane, like a Stearman, has got a lot of fabric covering. This is more, and you've kind of alluded to, this is more of aluminum construction. You still have some fabric covering in the control surfaces, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, just the flaps, the ailerons, the rudder, and the elevators are all covered in fabric. But yeah, you're right. All the rest of it's aluminum.
So again, a big difference between the most of the primary trainers, which fabric covering, but also had a lot of wood elements to it, which also makes sometimes a restoration a little more difficult than others.
Yeah. But, a little known thing about BT-13 was that there were some of the parts were made of wood as well for the BT-13.
Oh, okay.
The outer wing sections, there was a wood variant. Components to put on for the outer wings. Also the tail cone or tail section, there was a wood version of that. This was all, aluminum was a strategic war material, so they were trying to save as much for the fighters and the bombers, the combat aircraft, and so they started making components of the BT-13 with wood. The side panels, they started making those out of the phenolic boards instead of aluminum, but ours was pre-World War II. Ours was built in 1941, so everything on it is aluminum. We don't have wood parts for this aircraft, but there were some of the later models or later variants that had some wood parts.
Now, is this the original seat?
No, that's not the original seat. Okay. They're very close to what the original was, but Vultee made some modifications to the seats before they installed them. And so whoever bought these seats bought them from some other aircraft that operated with them, and it does not have the Vultee modifications to it yet.
Okay.
So we'll either have to find the original seats, or we'll have to modify these with the parts that are necessary to make it function with the Vultee.
Okay. Hey, what kind of modifications did Vultee make?
So they had a part that went on the back for the some shoulder harnesses, and then some other minor variances for it for the up and down movement for the seating. That just small little things that we'd have to source those parts because they didn't come with the aircraft.
Right. Well, speaking of parts that came with the aircraft, there's quite a bit here. When I was a kid, I remember making plastic model airplanes, and you would have an instruction sheet that came and told you which part went where. How are you figuring out what goes where with with all of these parts and pieces that you've obtained?
Okay, well, we're very fortunate. Of course, when we got the aircraft, it did come with a series of manuals, but we also do use the reference manuals that are on the Air Corps Aviation Library that you, as the CAF members, can have access to. And so they also have the factory drawings. So that is a great resource for going out there. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is that probably for every hour we spend on the restoring the airplane, we spend probably about 4 hours of doing research, making sure that we know how it's supposed to go together originally, researching what parts we need for the next project, seeing what modifications were done, because there were changes that were done throughout the course of the year. So we may have the early version of the aircraft, and so there was something else that was modified later, and so there's a lot of research that has to go into knowing what you're about to do next. So, and there were some service bulletins that were published during the war. We want to make sure that those are complied with, as well as any of the FAA ADs that may have been come out on whether the engine, the airframe, other components and stuff like that. So a lot of research goes into building an aircraft.
It certainly does. You mentioned the seats and the modifications. You'll have to find those parts to make those modifications. Are there any parts on this airplane that are just really, really rare and hard to find?
We haven't come across that yet, because we really hadn't had a need to go looking for too much for this aircraft yet. We have already identified a few things that we need, but I don't think they're unobtainable at this point. And so I don't know what would be really rare. I would say one of the most interesting things I've come across in doing the research is that there is actually a mason jar that is used in this airplane. One of the ball mason jar. It actually calls it a ball mason jar, and it's like you would use for sealing pickles and stuff like that, for canning stuff. And it's used as a drain vent for the battery. And of course, we won't need it because we'll use a more modern battery than what they used back then. But it was kind of interesting that they used just a glass jar that they pulled from canning to be that part.
And Matt, and some of the things that you've had to do with small pieces is had to make pieces, right?
Yes, so there is some fabrication that's involved, like you see with the tail section here being reskinned, but there are parts on the wing that we've had to fabricate already, some of the covers and such. And so we have to go back to those factory drawings to find out what was the original materials that were used to make that part, and the original dimensions and everything. And then, of course, on top of that, just taking it out to the aircraft and actually fitting it as we go along in building that part. So, yeah, that's part of the process as well.
And we're looking down the inside of the tail cone now.
Yeah, so you're looking inside the tail section. The guys that had started this project of reskinning the tail did a really great job. I went through the original factory drawings to make sure that they had gone through and done the things the way they're supposed to, because this actually, a lot of people don't realize that there's actually 2 layers of aluminum on this tail section. It's not one single sheet of aluminum that wraps around this. It's actually 2 thinner sheets of aluminum that go around this. And so they did it correctly, and they put in the various reinforcing strips of aluminum, doublers as they call them, in the correct places and stuff, and have gone back with the original rivets as they should have. And so they've done a great job. So we're confident we're going to be able to finish reskinning this tail section and have it back to original condition.
No, when you said
and they did paint them blue inside like this from the factory in the pre-war aircraft. That's something else about the aircraft is pre-war aircraft were the blue and yellow trainer colors. And then by 1943, they realized that they needed to save some time and save some money. And so they stopped painting these aircraft and just left them in the bare aluminum starting in 1943. So if you see the early, the blue and yellow, those are the early pre-war to early war aircraft. And then if you see them in the bare aluminum, that would be the 43 on schemes.
You mentioned in the tail section, there's two pieces of aluminum. How does that go together? Is it two pieces on top of each other, or do they overlap? How does that? Yeah, so it's two sheets of aluminum all the way around on top of each other. So I that was kind of a surprise to me, actually. I thought it was going to be one sheet of aluminum until I got into the factory drawings and started looking at it really close. And so it's just covering one sheet of aluminum that goes all around, then there's another sheet of aluminum that goes all the way around, and both those sheets have to be riveted on all at one time. Thus the need for all the clicos in the previous picture.
Yeah, that's why you see all the clicos holding it together at this point. So that it'll be ready to put together. As those are the brakes that you see there being reassembled. All the little pieces and parts that have to come apart and be cleaned, and of course you have to make sure they still meet certain tolerances before they can be put back together. And we had like 6 sets of brakes, so we had a lot of parts to go pick through to find out the best parts to use to rebuild this.
Now that always in restorations like this, and you want to bring it back to factory original or as close as you can, but then there are some concessions you need to make to safety, and a lot of times brakes come into that discussion. And you have original brakes that are ready to go, but you're also, hopefully in the future you're going to add a little more modern redline brakes to increase the safety margin for the aircraft.
Yes. So since we do like to try to restore things back to original condition, but we are recognizing that we're wanting to use this aircraft on the rides program, and so safety has really got to be foremost in that. So at some point we are going to be looking at going back and retrofitting the redline brakes, the same kind of brakes that are used on some of the T6s. So you have the disc type brake for a little bit better braking action, smoother braking action, not as grippy.
Yeah, the big thing is these older drum brakes, although they're functional, they often behave differently when they're hot than they do when they're cold. Yeah. One brake on one side may grab, the other one may not grab. They may grab at different places of pressure on the airplane, and that just creates risk that we'd prefer not to have with a tailwheel airplane like this. Redline brakes should be more predictable, more honest, and act like you want them to act when you apply them. They don't grab suddenly, they grab slowly, so you can control the airplane better. So if we have the option of putting redline brakes on the airplane, we definitely will do it.
Very good. And, this is the second of our 12 Planes of Christmas episodes for this year. And obviously you're raising some money. You've already raised money within the wing, and locally people have helped support the airplane. But when the 12 Planes of Christmas campaign kicks off, you're hoping to raise some money to help finish off this restoration, and to potentially, if things go well, be able to purchase those upgraded brakes and some other elements for the airplane. We were talking before we came on the air. It's almost things that are consumables that you need to look at in an 80-year-old airplane, and that's why you're raising the money. You have, as you said, almost all the parts are there, but it's some of those other sort of internal components that you really need to upgrade.
Yeah, we were very lucky with this project in that it is virtually complete with about every part you need, but there are many disposable parts and parts that have to be their own lifespan that we're going to have to replace. Hydraulic lines, electrical wire. We talked about brakes already. Radios. We will need to have modern radios in the airplane. So all of those things cost money. And right now, we were very fortunate. When we were assigned the airplane, we internally estimated we would need about $40,000 to finish the airplane, given all the parts and everything we were given at the initial onset. So far, from donations and from our own wing members' generosity, we've put about $10,000 into the airplane. We are getting to the phase now where we need another $10,000 to take us a little bit further so we can begin buying all those reusable parts and finding out which radios we want to put in here for ADS-B, how we want our navigation systems to look, and getting these red line brakes and making the airplane as safe as possible.
So you mentioned having the airplane in the rides program, and that's one way of generating income to help support the airplane and the wing. But what other missions do you foresee the airplane having when it gets back in the air?
Yeah, the ride program is only a piece. The CAF mission, educate, honor, and inspire. The ride program is just one way to do that. We certainly plan on taking it to fly-in events and air shows and showing off what World War II aviation's all about. Our PT-22, for instance, last weekend we flew it up to Blytheville, Arkansas, which was a Cold War air base, and where the National Cold War Museum is. They had a fly-in last weekend to celebrate the National Cold War Museum. We flew our PT-22 up there to help celebrate that. We'll certainly do that and much more with the BT-13 that has greater range, greater safety margins, and the ability to work with other squadrons and other wings in the CAF, where they may be. With our PT-22, leaving Arkansas is an endeavor. We have to think very hard if we're going to take that PT-22 out of the state. With the BT-13, those decisions will be much easier to make.
Just out of curiosity, what's the fuel capacity in the 13?
120 gallons.
Okay.
And our PT-22 is 24.
Yeah. So you can make a significant difference in cross country between those two.
Yeah, it burns roughly about 20 gallons an hour.
Yeah.
So we'd have about a 6-hour range.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about this, guys, but you're getting dangerously close to putting an airplane together here.
Yes. So what you see there, of course, the wing center section, that's, again, before it got painted yellow. And then you got the fuselage there in the silver. So people may want to ask why it's not chromate green like everything else in an airplane. And that's from the factory. That's how it was painted, was a lacquer with aluminum powder in it, aluminum paste. So it came out painted silver just like that. So that's what we've done, is painted it in the silver colors just like it would have looked from the factory. And like I said, hopefully you'll see some of the photos later on with the wings with the yellow and the landing gear on it, and where it's just about ready to put that fuselage center section bolted to it, and like I said, it'll start looking like an airplane, and we'll start putting all the pieces and parts inside that co-pilot compartment area there. There are some of our folks. Mike Fisher is standing there showing the public the aircraft. He's one of our aircraft mechanics, and so it's really been interesting to have the public come out and check out the airplane and point to the picture, and then point to what we got here that's going to be that airplane someday, and they're really amazed about that. And about its construction, be able to look at the monocoque fuselage structure, the tail section, and the tubular frame that you see here, and then the spar and the ribs of the wing center section.
Yeah, it's really been interesting to see that, we've been flying our PT-22 now for about 7 years, and although it's our baby, it's our attention getter. Now that we have this BT-13 project in our hangar, it has gotten a fair amount of attention itself from a public, just showing it off and showing how this is how you build an airplane. And there's definitely a historic appreciation and a little humbleness we've all learned on seeing how this is done. It's amazing.
And speaking of the wing, and you mentioned earlier that the Razorback wing came back into existence 2017, 2018, in that time range. But Razorback wing was there before and kind of drifted out, and you're back now. How many members do you have?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. The Razorback wing did exist in the 1970s through the 1990s in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which is about 40, 50 miles south of here, of Little Rock. And it was actually a relatively active wing where they had significant air shows with a lot of the World War II fighters and bombers. I've seen pictures of their air shows in the 80s, and they rivaled what we do in Dallas now. But for unknown reasons, and I really don't know the answer, sometime in the 90s, it just folded and collapsed. And so, as Matt mentioned, Mike Tooley, one of our founding members, decided to stand up this wing in 2017. And I think 2018 is maybe when we actually were actually fully established in North Little Rock. Right now, we've got about 35 members that are actually dues-paying members that are actually on our rolls, and truly about 15 to 20 regular participating members that are out there regularly all the time doing pieces of our projects. So we want to expand our wing. We want to get more engagement. And that's one of the challenges we have. And I think the BT-13 project is perfect for that, because anybody that has any inclination whatsoever can get engaged with something in aviation with this airplane.
And you mentioned your members, and this is I've not seen this before, the CAF wing, and I think every wing should do it. It's a great inspiration. Matt, tell us what we're looking at here.
Okay, so we decided about almost a year ago, maybe about 6 months ago, six months ago or so, we decided to create this wall of honor, and it's really a wall where our members can bring in a photograph of their veteran family members that served anywhere from World War I to Vietnam, and we take their picture, put it up on a wall, put their name, put the unit that they served in, and display it here so that we kind of make that connection with our members, but we're also able to, when we bring in the public, we're able to kind of tell the story of these veterans that served, and explain that this is what we're all about. This is who we're trying to honor and remember with what we do here with the Commemorative Air Force. And we'll eventually have, as I'm continuing to do research on each of these individuals, we'll have a book that we'll put there in front on a table in front of this, so people can look up the names and see a little biography about it. And we'll also have on our website a biography and the photographs, so people can go scroll through and read about each of these veterans and their story. We've got some interesting people that are up there on the wall. We can't go through all of them, obviously, but we've got one of them that is entombed in the USS Arizona. He died on December 7, 1941. He's on the wall there in the bottom center. And we've also got a Medal of Honor recipient that's up on the wall. We've also got family members of Rob Lashbrook's family members are on the wall. His grandfather was a P-51 pilot during World War II, and his father, who's also a member of our Razorback wing, was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam.
And
I've got my great-grandfather was the first aviator in my family. He got the 909 spherical balloon certificate, and he's up on the wall. He also served in World War II later. And my grandfather served World War II, Korea, Vietnam. And my great uncle was up there, served as a paratrooper in the 519th Parachute Infantry. So a lot of family connections that we've made, and with our members, and we want to make sure they're all honored and remembered there. So that's hanging on our wall in our hangar.
And it's a great idea, Matt. And again, a lot of times when we're talking about educate, inspire, honor, when we're talking about World War II, we're talking about aviators sort of in the abstract, just the aviation cadets, right, and flight training. Yeah. But this really brings it home to your unit and says, these are the people that are inspiring us today to continue the mission of the CAF, honoring and inspiring and educating. And again, it's a absolute great idea.
Yeah, we're really the last generation that can say we may have known these people personally. Mm-hmm. They were maybe in their 70s or 80s when we knew them, but we knew these people personally, and we're the last of those. So I think what Matt's doing with this Wall of Honor to carry it on to the next generation, where they can see these people and maybe not have as quite a personal connection, but they can at least know that we have it.
Yes. Well, we've got a couple of questions from the audience. Tim Sparks, it's more of a comment than a question. Tim flies the Indiana Wings BT-13, and he said, unless you have the tail up for fueling, it'll only hold 47 per side, not 60. And flight planning should be at 23 gallons per hour for cross country. So there you go. You got some inside.
We will need all the help we can get with that.
We will be reaching out and asking those questions when it gets closer to time for sure.
Well, and that's the good thing with CAF is that I know that the steermen, there are a number of steermen that are in the fleet. They get together and talk T6s, B-25s. So I'm sure you'll be able to start a BT-13, BT-15 society there, right? And then another question is, how many BT-13s are in the CAF fleet? And there are several. There's BT-13 in Alaska. There is a BT-13 in Houston. Of course, we've got a couple of BT-13s that have been converted for in the Tora fleet. BT-13, BT-13A in Minnesota Wing. I love technology.
And
Capital
DFW Wing, I believe, has one.
Yep, they've got a 15 in the DFW Wing. Let's see. Just looking quickly here.
And you mentioned Indiana, yeah.
Yep, and Indiana. Yep. Tora birds. So I think that's all. So there was what, 6, 7 in the fleet, something like that. So
I think there's a few more than that. I thought there was closer to 10 or 9 or 10 or something like that. So there's quite a few.
Yeah, we're already greasing the skids with those other wings, kind of trying to garner whatever knowledge we can and whether gouge we can get. So I appreciate the insight. We'll be digging in further as we get further along with the project, but we're ready to get it flying.
Well, and Tim left his email address, so I'll forward that to you.
All right, awesome.
And you can ask him all sorts of questions. Let's see. Mark Abel was wondering, whatever happened to the Vultee company after World War II? Was it bought out or merged with another company, or did they just go out of business?
So you had of course Vultee, mm-hmm. And then in 1943 they were combined with Consolidated, so it became Consolidated Vultee, and it gradually became Convair, is how they started referring to them. And from there I don't know.
So another one of those that
bought and sold, traded, passed on, changed names again.
So with the wing, if people want to find out more about your activities, how they can join, how they can support, how's the best way to get connected?
Yeah, we've got a great website, razorbackcaf.com, that we have all the contact information for the wing on that. Photos of some of our activities are on there. In addition, we've got the Razorback CAF Facebook page that we keep up to date all the time with pictures of what we're doing. We also have an Instagram, Razorback CAF Instagram account, and on YouTube as well. You can find Razorback CAF on YouTube. So All of those social media resources, we're participating in those. We're engaged in them, and reach out, find us if they would like to donate. Of course, the 12 Planes of Christmas is available. You can also donate via our website, therazorbackscaf.com. And if you're ever in Little Rock, come on out to the North Little Rock Airport. Give us a holler. We'd love to show you around.
Do you have regular working days or open hangar days?
So we're definitely out there most Saturdays, and then I'm now retiring, so I am out there almost every day. But it's still best to kind of give us a call in advance, let us know that you're coming, and we'll make sure that we're there to come visit you or show you around.
Good. And again, you mentioned it, the 12 Planes of Christmas. This is really an opportunity for people to be able to help out individual aircraft projects. There's also some matching funding that goes into it. And it's, as we talked about, it's really a complete project, but there are all those little sort of connector parts and pieces that add up when you have to go purchase things like control cables or hydraulic lines.
Yeah, we're really lucky. We do have, first of all, we have Matt, who's an expert at restoring these kind of airplanes. So it will be a first-class restoration when it's done. I have no doubt. Mm-hmm. And we've got a further group of dedicated members that are out there virtually every weekend helping this restoration project. But without money, you can only go so far. And fortunately, our wing itself and local donors have been generous so far, but we need that next step to help finish the restoration and continue what we're doing. And we'd really like that help because we want to get this thing in the air and show it off.
Good. And with any restoration, the question always comes up, when do you think it's going to fly? The answer you give is Tuesday. Just don't tell us what Tuesday.
I'm going to say when it's ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not a moment before, but we kind of projected, that we've got probably another 2 or 3 years, at kind of the pace that we're going right now. Mm-hmm. If we get more active involvement from our membership and more frequency, then maybe we can get it finished a little sooner. If we continue kind of the pace we're at right now, I'm confident we can get it done probably in about 3 years.
Awesome. What are some of the other things that the Razorback wing, aside from flying the PT-22 and restoring the BT-13, what else? What other kind of activities surround the wing?
When we were involved with the Civil Air Patrol, we like to be involved in the education aspect as well. Mm-hmm. We've had the local high school junior ROTC come out and tour our facility. We've done flyovers for the local minor league baseball team here, the Arkansas Travelers baseball team. We did a flyover for an event there, and we have actually had the Attorney General of the state of Arkansas come here as well, come to our wing and kind of get to tour our wing and try to help us do some fundraising. We actually gave Miss Arkansas a flight in our PT-22 as well. We're trying to stay as active as we can, keeping the community involved because that's what we're all about. We're talking about doing a Christmas social event here in the next couple of weeks, just to kind of get the membership and socially engaged a little bit and share the holiday spirit a little bit. So we are a very active wing. And it's just as much energy as we can output to get it done.
We've just got a couple of minutes left before we close out tonight. And Matt, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
So this project, there's a lot of little things that they go into putting this aircraft together, and it takes a lot of manpower, a lot of time from dedicated volunteers. If there's other people that are out there that are ANPs, IAs, or just people that are interested in aircraft or want to learn more about restoring airplanes, we encourage them to come join us and get involved in our wing, and we'll help educate you or get you involved in the restoration. Or even if you don't have any kind of aviation connection at all, and there's other things that you just want to be around it, we'll find another job for you out there to help us grow as an organization.
We've got marshalers. We need help with marshalers.
Okay.
We can train. We have to train our hand proppers. We got that training going on. We have a PX. We have people to help me run the PX. Briefers. So we try. I mean, we're not as big as a lot of some of the other wings in the CAF with multiple airplanes doing traveling, but we're as professional as any of them, and we want to make sure we do it right. And the more hands we have, the better we can make it.
Sounds like some good Razorback pride there.
Yeah.
Rob, Matt, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And Rob, give us that website address one more time.
RazorbackCAF.com.
All right. Go check
Again,
it
you can
out.
find us on Facebook as well, Instagram, YouTube, and the website.
Very good. Again, gentlemen, thank you for being with us tonight and talking about your BT-13 project, and good luck with the 12 Planes of Christmas. I hope you reach your goal and move that restoration a little farther down the road. And also, thanks to Nate Dissaro for his technical assistance tonight. Nate has been in the background making sure that Matt and Rob look good, and it is quite a nice, impressive setup there. So thank you. And thank you for joining us. We'd love to hear any thoughts that you have on tonight's episode, or any ideas you have for future episodes. Just drop us a note at media@cafhq.org. And again, if you like what you saw tonight, please share it across your social media platforms. And remember, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you click that bell icon, and you will get notifications when our new episodes are posted. So until next time, I'm Steve Buss for the Commemorative Air Force, wishing you blue skies and tailwinds.